Through 3 games of the first round, Giannis is putting up numbers that you couldn't even replicate in a video game. And it's not like the Pacers haven't tried to slow him down. They've gone to all sorts of different matchups, coverages, and adjustments for every type of action the Bucks like to run, and time again, he finds a way to break them down. Of course, it all starts with the fact that he might be the single most devastating transition scorer in NBA history. For him to have the speed, change of direction, and ball handling ability that he does at his size, it's nearly impossible to stop him from creating angles in the open floor. And I don't even think the Pacers have done a bad job of getting back and slowing the push. It's just that all he needs to do is create the slightest opening for his length to guide him to the basket. Then, in the rare event that he starts a drive but doesn't have a lane, chances are he's just powering through the defense on his way to the rim anyways, so the end result is just this absolute freight train in early offense who's basically impossible to prevent from getting downhill. That puts defenses in a lose-lose-lose situation. If he starts an attack, pretty much the only way to prevent a layup is to intentionally foul him, which not only gives him opportunities to score at the line, it allows the Bucks to spend a ton of time in the bonus. As a result, Indiana, like most defenses, has opted to build a wall to which he'll consistently find the open man, making them pick their poison between layups, free throws, or threes. Because he's so impossible to guard after getting downhill, Milwaukee's entire half-court offense is structured around creating those opportunities. To start this series, they were running lots of pick and roll between him and the 5. Turner started out playing these screens in drop coverage, which left Giannis with space to turn the corner and just bully his way to the rim. So it didn't take long for them to start switching these actions instead, and that's when the Bucks would clear out for him to isolate from the middle of the floor. This became a serious problem because Giannis started to hunt for Turner every time down. Not only does that take away Indiana's primary shot blocker, he just simply isn't quick enough to contain those drives. To be fair though, nobody on the Pacers has been able to guard him in these spots. Siakam's been the primary matchup, and he's nowhere near big enough, and the same applies to Aaron Nesmith, who has the agility to cut off those angles, but lacks the length to contest him inside the paint. Jarris Walker had some good moments in Game 1. For the most part though, these isolations still resulted in either a layup or a foul more times than not, and when they went to Thomas Bryant for some more size, he was right back to using his agility to easily create separation as a driver. This is exactly why defenses play him so aggressively. The Pacers have been trying to push him into immediate help to take away those drives, but not only is he a skilled enough passer to find those openings, he's added the mid-range jumper as a more than reliable counter. So anytime he doesn't have a lane to attack, he's still a threat to call his own number as a scorer. Of course, Indiana sighs a breath of relief anytime he shoots a jumper, but this shot makes him a lot more dynamic as a middle of the floor creator than in years past, and makes it so much easier for him to reach 30 points. So, going back to those pick and rolls with the 5, by the end of Game 2, the Pacers had completely abandoned both the idea of dropping and switching. Now they're looking to put 2 on the ball in a hedge, to which he'll either quickly hit the screener on a pop, or he'll just patiently wait for the second defender to recover after the hedge, now clearing the middle of the floor for him to isolate his original matchup and create downhill pressure. With all of that said though, as Brook Lopez has seen a decrease to his minutes and they've played their guards a lot more, the pick and roll between him and the 5 hasn't been nearly as prominent. Instead, they've been going to a lot more inverted pick and roll, with Giannis coming off a screen from one of their smaller players to create that added space. And the Pacers have had an interesting approach to these actions. What they're looking to do is a really early, aggressive hedge, where the second defender sprints out to the ball before a screen is ever set, so that he doesn't have any space to turn the corner, forcing him to get rid of it early. But the Bucks were prepared to adjust. As Green starts running up, notice how Halliburton jumps out to the right side. The counter is for Green to flip the screen to the left at the last second, which creates that driving lane, draws help from the corner, and results in a wide open 3 for Portis. Here's another example from later in that game. Green starts coming up, McConnell jumps out to the left, then when Green flips it to the right, there's nobody in position to stop Giannis from getting to the rim. In game 3 though, they added another counter to their bag. Instead of flipping the screen, what you're gonna see Green do is just not screen at all, immediately sprinting to the perimeter to catch the ball with an advantage, where one extra pass results in an open corner 3 for Gary Trent Jr. It isn't always Giannis who's coming off a screen though. Remember, the idea is to get him downhill as much as possible, and another way they'll do that is by having him screen for a guard on the ball. In these spots, it's absolutely imperative that his defender does not let him roll behind them, because as soon as that happens, you're basically asking for him to dunk the ball. When rolling, he's a huge target, he has amazing hands, and anytime he catches the ball within 5 feet of the basket, it's automatic offense. So the Pacers have tried a few different coverages. One is to have his defender pick up the ball in a high drop, while a third defender pre-rotates from the weak side to play the roll, but like I said, as long as he catches the ball, there really isn't much the defense can do. As a result, the low man has to step over early enough so that the pass isn't even an option. This time both corners drop, and the result is an easy kick out to Portis for an open 3. Dame really hasn't shown up as a scorer in this series yet, but because of his threat as a pull-up shooter, he's usually going to draw 2 to the ball. Then with Giannis in the short roll, the defense is once again forced to pick one of the 3 poisons. To avoid all of this, Indiana's implemented a unique pick and roll coverage where they're basically going to completely ignore the ball to prioritize Giannis. Just look at Jarris Walker on this one. He doesn't even turn towards the ball off a screen, and Kevin Porter Jr. walks into an easy dunk. Here's another example. When Giannis hands it off to Porter, Nesmith makes no effort whatsoever to step in front of a drive, and an easy paint touch then compromises the rest of the defense as Kuzma's left with a wide open jumper from the corner. This isn't just off of screens though. They know that anytime he catches the ball within vicinity of the basket, the only way to stop him from scoring is to wrap him up and send him to the line. So even if he's not involved in the primary action, he demands attention at all times, especially against a Pacers defense that lacks size and physicality inside. That's a pretty important piece to the puzzle that I hadn't mentioned yet. Basically every defense to ever exist would deal with these problems against Giannis, but the Pacers struggle more than most because with the way they've built their roster, they prioritize speed and offensive skill over size, physicality, and maybe most importantly, rebounding. As a result, not only can they not stop him from getting to the rim with the ball, they can't keep him off the glass. He's averaging over 4 offensive rebounds a game, and those can basically be chalked down as automatic points. So when you also account for the transition stuff, he's getting a lot of easy offense. That's probably why his efficiency has been off the charts. Through 3 games, he's averaging 13 shots at the rim and making almost 77% of them. Yes, that's as crazy as it sounds, but not as crazy as the fact that he's shooting 70% on all 2-pointers. So, like I said, when that mid-range is working for him, we're talking about a scorer who's completely immune to scheming. His shot creation in the half court isn't all predicated on getting downhill though. I'd actually make the argument that in this matchup specifically, it's been out of the post where he's been causing the most damage. In these spots, the Pacers have been trying to deny him the ball. Whoever's guarding him is going to aggressively front the pass while the low man cheats over to meet him early, but again, if he catches the ball, good luck stopping him. It's also worth noting that a big problem with fronting these post-ups is that if someone else attempts a shot, he basically has automatic box out position, meaning more easy putbacks. Say he gets the ball in the post cleanly or just turns his back to the basket with a live dribble though. Then the Pacers have been sending immediate doubles from the top of the key in an effort to get the ball out of his hands. This works sometimes. If the double is even a fraction of a second late, he's just spinning baseline and either getting to a layup or drawing a foul. But most of the time, they've done a good job of pushing him towards the middle, coming with the double, and forcing him to make the pass, to which they'll take the gamble on a shooter. And in games 1 and 2, I'd say the gamble hit more than it missed. Giannis didn't have space to attack, then shooters didn't get hot enough to make them pay. At least, not until game 3. That's when they moved Gary Trent into the starting lineup, put him one pass away from Giannis, and he erupted for 37 points. It was the same thing over and over again. Giannis posting up, drawing a double from up top, and hitting Trent as he tied a franchise record with 9 made threes. Figuring out how to consistently counter those doubles out of the post was the final piece of the puzzle for this Milwaukee offense, and they did so in convincing fashion. If they can at least make the defense think twice about sending a double, that's at least a possession or two of Giannis in single coverage, where there's nobody who can guard him, and he'll be able to add to some already historic scoring numbers. I mentioned the 2-point percentage. Well, when you also add in all of those trips to the line, we're looking at a guy who after 3 games is averaging about 36 points on 69% true shooting, and it's hard to really put into words just how ridiculous that is. With that, he's dominating the glass, creating plenty of open shots for others, and the only thing I'd say the Pacers have been able to do somewhat well is forcing him to turn the ball over, so they can pat themselves on the back for that, I guess. But as far as slowing down Giannis goes, I don't think it's possible right now. He's too physically overwhelming, he's too versatile, and the Bucks have figured out too many counters. So they need to either figure out how to slow down everyone else, or how to outgun them on the other end, because as of right now, he's single-handedly making this a really competitive series. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out the Hoop Venue podcast and my social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Giannis. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.